My wife wanted space, but her space had another man's name, and I tried to respect it until a grocery receipt, a muted chat, and one Venmo note showed me she had already built a second life while I was paying for our first one. Original post: my wife asked for space on a Tuesday night while I was putting away groceries I had just paid for. That is the part I keep replaying. Not the crying, not the final argument, not the messages I found later. Just me standing in our kitchen in Charlotte, North Carolina, holding a 12-pack of paper towels while Nora sat at the table twisting her wedding ring and said, "I think I need space." My name is Grant. I'm 34. Nora is 32. We had been married for 4 years and together for 7. I work as a physical therapist at a rehab clinic. She worked as a marketing coordinator for a boutique hotel downtown. We weren't perfect. I want to say that up front. I worked too much. I checked out sometimes. I had a bad habit of trying to fix every emotional conversation instead of just listening. Nora used to say she felt like I turned her feelings into a project plan, and maybe she wasn't wrong, but I loved my wife. I paid attention in the ways I knew how. I warmed up her car in winter. I made sure the electric bill never bounced. I packed her lunch when she had early shifts. I kept a note in my phone with her coffee order, her shoe size, her mom's birthday, and the brand of migraine medicine that worked best for her. So when she said she needed space, I didn't yell. I asked, space like a weekend alone or space like separation? She looked down and said, "I don't know." That answer scared me more than if she had just said separation. Our rent was $2,200 a month. We had a car payment, a joint savings account, and a dog named Milo who thought every Amazon package was his enemy. We had built a whole life out of small routines, and suddenly my wife wanted air from it. She said she felt overwhelmed. She said she had lost herself. She said she loved me, but she didn't know if she was still in love with the version of us we kept forcing. That sentence sounded rehearsed. I didn't notice it then. I only noticed that she was crying, and I hated seeing her cry. So I said, "Okay, what do you need from me?" She said she wanted to stay with her friend Cassie for a few nights. Cassie lived in South End, 10 minutes from her work. Nora said it would give her room to think without us turning every night into another exhausting conversation. I hated it, but I said yes, because I thought respecting space was what a good husband did. She packed a small bag. Before she left, she hugged me. Not a quick hug, a long one. Her face pressed into my chest like she was already saying goodbye but wanted me to be the last one to notice. At the door, she said, "Please don't make this harder." I said, "I won't," and I meant it. For the first 2 days, I gave her space. I fed Milo. I went to work. I ate leftovers standing over the sink like a divorced man in a commercial. I didn't call. I didn't show up. I sent one text Wednesday morning that said, "Hope you slept okay. Milo misses you." She replied 5 hours later, "Thank you, I need quiet today." So I went quiet. Thursday night, I stopped by the grocery store because we were out of dog food and laundry detergent. I used our joint debit card without thinking. The receipt printed and I noticed the balance. It was lower than it should have been. Not empty, not alarming, just off. I checked the banking app in the parking lot. There was a charge from a restaurant called the Alder Room for $86. 2 cocktails, 2 entrees, 1 dessert. The charge was from Wednesday night. I stared at it for a while. Nora had told me she needed quiet Wednesday. Maybe Cassie took her out. Maybe she needed dinner. Maybe I was overthinking. I almost closed the app. Then I saw a second charge, parking garage, uptown, same night, 11:28 p.m. Cassie lived in South End and had free parking. Still, I told myself not to spiral. That was the first clue. And because I wanted to be a good husband more than I wanted to be honest with myself, I ignored it. Update 1 by Friday morning, Nora had changed her phone passcode. I know how that sounds, but we had never been a secret phone couple. Not because we snooped on each other every day, but because normal married life made privacy flexible. She used my phone for recipes. I used hers for Spotify in the car. If one of us was driving, the other answered texts. Her passcode had been our anniversary for years. Friday morning, she came home before work to grab a blazer. I was making coffee when her phone buzzed on the counter. She was in the bedroom and I saw the screen light up. The notification didn't show the message, just a name, Lee. I knew Lee from her job, tall, polished, always talking about hotel partnerships and brand strategy. I had met her twice at company events. She was friendly in a way that felt like customer service. I picked up Nora's phone to bring it to her, and when my thumb brushed the screen, the keypad popped up. I typed the anniversary without thinking. Wrong passcode. I stared at the phone. Nora walked in and saw my face. She said, "Why are you trying to get into my phone?" I said, "I wasn't." "I was handing it to you." She reached for it fast, too fast. I said, "You changed your passcode." She said, "Grant, I asked for space. That includes privacy." That sounded fair enough to make me feel guilty, so I apologized. She softened a little and said, "I'm not trying to hurt you." I said, "Then don't." She didn't answer. That silence stayed with me all day. At work, I couldn't focus. I had a patient doing balance exercises after knee surgery, and I kept losing count of reps because my brain was replaying Nora's face when she grabbed the phone. At lunch, Cassie texted me. That was unusual. Cassie and I were friendly, but we didn't text one-on-one unless it was about Nora's birthday or a group plan. Her message said, "Hey, checking in. Are you okay?" I wrote, trying to be. "Is Nora okay?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, Cassie wrote, "I think you two should talk directly." That was not an answer, so I called her. She didn't pick up. 5 minutes later, she texted, "I'm at work. I can't get involved." I looked at that sentence until it stopped looking like English. Can't get involved. In what? That night, Nora didn't come home. She texted at 7:20. "Staying with Cassie again. Need more time." I almost replied, "Are you actually with Cassie?" But I didn't. Instead, I wrote, "Okay, can we talk tomorrow?" She said, "Maybe." Maybe. After 7 years, I had become a maybe. Saturday morning, I took Milo to the dog park because he was losing his mind in the apartment. While he chased a tennis ball with the seriousness of a federal agent, I opened Instagram. Nora had posted a story. Just a coffee cup, a window, and the caption, "Choosing peace." No location. But I knew that window. It was from a cafe called Blue Finch near Uptown. I knew because I had taken Nora there the morning after we got legally married at the courthouse before our actual wedding. She cried into a cinnamon latte because she said being my wife felt safe. Now she was posting from the same place while needing space from me. I zoomed in like an idiot. In the reflection of the window, barely visible, was someone's hand across the table. A man's hand. Wedding ring absent, watch on the left wrist, silver band. My stomach went cold. I screenshotted it before she deleted the story 20 minutes later. That was the second clue. And still, part of me wanted there to be an explanation. Because the truth does not arrive all at once when you love someone. It knocks. Then it waits for you to stop pretending you didn't hear it. Update 2, the name came from a Venmo note, not a secret camera, not a dramatic confession. Not me following her around like some private detective. Just Venmo. Sunday afternoon, I was paying our dog walker for 2 days because Milo needed extra walks while I was covering late shifts. I opened Venmo, typed her name, and there it was in the feed. Nora had paid someone named Anthony. The note said, "For the quiet place." $24. Posted Friday night. My hands started shaking. I clicked Anthony's profile, private. Profile picture was a beach, no face. But his friends list showed one mutual, Lee, Nora's coworker, the same Lee who had texted her when she grabbed the phone. I sat on the edge of the bed with Milo's head on my knee, trying to force myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe Anthony owned an Airbnb. Maybe it was a coworker thing. Maybe quiet place meant a conference room. But then I remembered the restaurant charge, the parking garage, the changed passcode, Cassie's weird text, the Instagram reflection. At some point, evidence stops being separate details and starts becoming a map. I texted Cassie. "Is Nora staying with you?" She replied after 11 minutes. "Grant, I'm sorry. That was it. No explanation, no defense, just sorry. I called Nora. She didn't answer. I called again. No answer. Then she texted, I'm not ready to talk. I wrote, is your space named Anthony? She read it. No reply. That was the loudest silence of my life. I drove home from the gym without remembering half the drive. I didn't go looking for her. I didn't show up anywhere. I just went home and sat at the kitchen table, the same place she had asked for space. Around 9, my phone buzzed. It was Cassie. She said, I need to tell you something, but I don't want to be the reason your marriage ends. I typed back, my marriage didn't end because you told the truth. She called. Her voice was shaky. She said Nora had not stayed with her at all, not one night. Nora had asked Cassie to cover if I called, but Cassie refused. That was why she had texted me checking in. She had felt guilty and wanted to see if I already knew something. I said, who is Anthony? Cassie went quiet. Then she said, he's Lee's brother. I closed my eyes. Anthony was 35, recently divorced, and apparently met Nora at a hotel networking event 2 months earlier. According to Cassie, Nora had been telling people we were taking space for weeks before she ever told me. Weeks. She had prepared the world before she prepared her husband. Cassie said, she told me it wasn't physical. I laughed once. I didn't mean to. It just came out empty and sharp. Cassie said, I know. Then she told me about the chat. There was a group chat between Nora, Lee, and another coworker named Tessa. Cassie wasn't in it, but Nora had shown her pieces of it while trying to explain herself. They called it Operation Air. I actually asked Cassie to repeat it because I thought I misheard. Operation Air, because Nora needed space. In that chat, Lee gave Nora advice on how to ask me for separation without making it sound like another man was involved. Tessa said Nora should secure a soft landing before telling me too much. Lee joked that Anthony's apartment had better lighting than ours. Our apartment. The one I had painted on my only free weekend because Nora hated the beige walls. I asked Cassie if she had screenshots. She said no. Then she hesitated and said, but I have one photo Nora sent me. A minute later it came through. It was a picture of Nora sitting on a balcony at night, wearing my old Panthers hoodie, holding a glass of wine. The caption Nora had sent Cassie said, I know this looks bad, but this is the first time I've felt like myself in months. In the corner of the photo was a man's bare foot on the railing, not proof of everything, but proof enough that my wife's space had furniture, wine, and another man inside it. I didn't sleep that night. At 3 in the morning, Nora finally came home. She opened the door quietly, probably hoping I was asleep. I was sitting on the couch with the lamp on. She froze. I said, how's Anthony? Her face collapsed, not with confusion, with recognition. That was when I knew she had been ready for almost every question except the one with his name in it. Final update, Nora sat across from me and told the truth in pieces. That was the hardest part. She didn't confess like people do in movies. She negotiated with the truth. She gave me one small part, watched my reaction, then gave another. First, she said Anthony was just someone she talked to. Then she said they had kissed. Then she said she had slept at his apartment, but nothing happened that night. Then she admitted something had happened the next morning. Every sentence took another brick out of the house I thought we lived in. I asked how long, she said, emotionally, maybe 2 months. Physically, she said 1 week. I didn't believe her, but by then the exact timeline almost didn't matter. She said she felt invisible in our marriage. She said I was kind but distant. She said Anthony made her feel seen, spontaneous, wanted. She said she asked for space because she was confused and didn't want to make a permanent decision while overwhelmed. I asked, why did you lie about Cassie? She cried harder. Because I knew you'd leave. That sentence stayed with me, because it was the closest she came to admitting she was not confused about whether it was wrong. She was confused about whether she could keep both lives long enough to choose the better one. I asked about Operation Air. Her face went pale. She said, Cassie told you. I said, you did this, Nora, not Cassie. For the first time, she looked ashamed instead of scared. She said the chat was stupid. She said Lee made jokes and she went along with them. She said she never meant for me to be humiliated. I said, "You made my marriage a group chat." She covered her mouth and sobbed, and I sat there feeling strangely calm, not because I wasn't hurt. Because the part of me that had been trying to solve the puzzle finally had the picture. It was ugly, but at least it was real. At sunrise, I told her I was leaving for a few days. She asked if we could try counseling. That broke something in me, because 6 months earlier I had asked for counseling. I said we were drifting. I said I didn't know how to reach her anymore. She told me therapy was expensive and that not every rough patch needed a professional. Now, after Anthony, counseling was suddenly worth the money. I said, I wanted counseling before there was another man in the room. She whispered, "I'm sorry." I packed a bag and went to my friend Miles's house. The next week was miserable. Nora sent long messages. Some were apologetic, some were defensive. Some sounded like she was finally seeing what she had done. Others sounded like she missed the comfort of me more than she missed me. Her mom called me crying and asked if there was any chance we could work through it. She wasn't blaming me. She just sounded heartbroken. I told her, "I love your daughter, but I don't know how to be married to someone who needed a committee to lie to me." She had no answer. Anthony messaged me once on Instagram. All he wrote was, "I was told you two were separated. I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Maybe he was lying. Maybe Nora lied to him too. Maybe both things were true. I realized I didn't need to interview every person who helped break my marriage. I only needed to decide what I could live with. 2 weeks later, Nora and I met at a quiet coffee shop near our apartment. She looked tired. No makeup, hair tied back, wedding ring still on. She said she had ended things with Anthony. I said, "That doesn't rebuild trust." She nodded. She said she deleted the chat. I said, "That doesn't delete what happened." She cried again, but this time it was quieter. She said, "Do you hate me?" I looked at the woman I had loved for 7 years. The woman who used to dance barefoot in our kitchen. The woman who held my hand when my dad had surgery. The woman who betrayed me and still looked like home if I let my heart speak louder than my memory. I said, "No, but I don't feel safe with you anymore." That was the truth. Not dramatic, not angry, just final. We agreed to separate. No screaming, no police, no public posts, no revenge. Just two people dividing a life that used to feel permanent. She moved in with her sister for a while. I stayed in the apartment until the lease ended because Milo handled change badly, and honestly, so did I. For months, I kept finding pieces of her. A hair tie behind the nightstand, a receipt in a coat pocket, a sticky note on a cookbook that said, "Try this Sunday." Every little thing felt like evidence from a happier case. But slowly, the apartment stopped feeling haunted. I changed the bedroom curtains. I bought new plates. I moved the couch away from the spot where we had that last conversation. I stopped checking if she watched my stories. That one took longer than I want to admit. Nora emailed me in May. She said she was in therapy. She said she had learned that wanting to feel chosen did not excuse betraying someone who had already chosen her every day in boring, steady ways. She said she wished she had told me she was lonely before she let someone else make her feel interesting. I believed that she meant it. I also knew believing her regret did not mean reopening the door. That is the part nobody tells you. Forgiveness and access are not the same thing. I can forgive Nora as a flawed person who made selfish choices and still not hand her the keys to my life again. I am not perfect either. I should have listened better. I should have noticed the distance sooner. I should have stopped pretending paying bills and being dependable were the same thing as being emotionally present. But there is a difference between an imperfect marriage and a secret second life. Space should be honest. Space should have boundaries. Space should not have another man's name saved under it. When my wife asked for space, I thought she needed room to breathe. What she really wanted was room to hide. And the saddest part is, if she had just told me she was unhappy, I would have fought for us. But once I found out she had turned our marriage into a story she was editing for other people, I stopped fighting to be chosen by someone who had already chosen secrecy. Now Milo and I live in a smaller place across town. The rent is cheaper. The kitchen is tiny. The neighbors upstairs walk like they are moving furniture at midnight, but it is peaceful. And peace, I've learned, is not the absence of heartbreak. Sometimes peace is just waking up and knowing nobody is lying beside you. If this story hit close to home, subscribe for more stories like this, like the video, and share it with someone who needs the reminder. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had someone ask for space when they were really hiding someone else? Or what would you have done in my place?